Is Meghan Markle living a secret life, and has Prince Harry finally discovered the truth? Explosive reports claim Meghan Markle bought a hidden house in Toronto, a place private investigators say became a revolving door for mysterious men while Prince Harry was thousands of miles away. Tonight, we're diving into leaked security logs, alleged late-night visits, and the evidence some say could shatter the Sussexes' marriage and their entire public image. Was Toronto just a second home, or, as insiders now claim, a second life? Stay with us. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It begins with a question few dared to ask out loud, even in the darkest corners of online forums. What if the fairy tale of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle wasn't a fairy tale at all, but a finely crafted illusion hiding secrets so explosive they could shatter not just a marriage, but public trust in everything we thought we knew about love, loyalty, and royalty? Over the past decade, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have become two of the most scrutinized individuals on the planet. From their whirlwind romance, to their grand royal wedding, to their stormy departure from royal duties, they've lived under an intensity of public glare few humans could withstand. But for all the headlines, there's one story that has begun surfacing, piece by piece, in whispers, blind items, and, more recently, in alleged leaked documents and private investigator reports, that while Harry was tirelessly working across the world, raising funds for veterans, building the Invictus Games, and championing mental health causes, Meghan may have been living an entirely different life, one involving late-night visitors, discreet flights into Toronto, and secrets kept behind closed doors. Tonight, or today depending on when you're watching, we're going to peel back the curtain on one of the most explosive stories tied to the royal family in years. We'll explore claims that Meghan Markle bought a private home in Toronto not merely as a residence, but, as some allege, as a hidden stage for an entirely separate life, complete with a revolving door of so-called select guests who visited when Prince Harry was away. Private investigators, hired by undisclosed parties, claim they've gathered logs, camera footage, and even airport records showing a pattern of men arriving at Meghan's Toronto home, sometimes slipping in late at night, sometimes leaving in the early dawn hours, always under the cover of secrecy. These reports insist that Toronto wasn't simply a second home for Meghan. It was, in the words of one investigator, a second life. But before we dive into what's true, what's rumor, and what's pure speculation, let's pause and ask ourselves a few critical questions. Why has this story exploded right now? Why, after years of relentless tabloid attention, is this specific allegation emerging with such force? And perhaps the most important question of all, if any of this is true, how could it change everything we thought we knew about Harry and Meghan's relationship, and, by extension, the future of the modern monarchy itself? These aren't questions to take lightly. In an age where headlines blur the line between news and entertainment, and where anyone with a blog or a YouTube channel can drop a bombshell rumor into the global conversation, it's crucial to separate fact from fiction. Yet the details around this Toronto house saga are so intricate, and the number of separate sources swirling around it so unusual, that it demands attention. Consider this. An anonymous tipster first posted cryptic clues on an online gossip forum more than a year ago, claiming Meghan had kept a sanctuary in Toronto where she could be whoever she wanted to be, with whoever she wanted. The claim gained little traction at first, dismissed as internet nonsense. But in recent months, actual private investigators have reportedly stepped forward, confirming they were hired to watch the Toronto house. According to leaks, their reports describe dozens of overnight visits by several different men, some known figures in business, others allegedly tied to Hollywood circles. If the evidence is real, it's not merely salacious gossip. It raises profound questions about privacy, marriage, loyalty, and the price of living life under a royal spotlight. Imagine Prince Harry traveling across the globe, believing his wife is safely at home, while unbeknownst to him, strangers, or perhaps not strangers at all, were quietly entering a house bought in her name. Imagine discovering video footage or logs that suggest repeated visits, patterns that hint at relationships far deeper than casual acquaintances. It's the stuff of tabloid dreams and personal nightmares. Of course, we must also consider the counterpoint. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have been targets of countless rumors, many proven false or wildly exaggerated. Is this story just another chapter in the relentless, sometimes cruel narrative constructed around Meghan as a disruptive outsider who supposedly can't be trusted? Or is there genuinely a trail of evidence waiting to come fully into public view? One private investigator, speaking anonymously through an intermediary, described the situation as the most sensitive and dangerous case they'd ever handled. They hinted that security logs reveal not just names, but specific timestamps, car license plates, flight arrivals, and phone metadata connecting visitors to Meghan's known associates. Yet, to date, no official documentation has been released publicly. No mainstream outlet has published the logs in full. So why are so many still convinced this story is real? Some point to subtle clues Meghan herself may have dropped in interviews, references to needing personal space, or cryptic comments about how freedom sometimes means having more than one version of yourself. Taken alone, those might mean nothing. But in the swirling conspiracy theory ecosystem around the royal family, they've become fuel for speculation. And then there's the biggest wild card of all, Prince Harry himself. Insiders have claimed he's become increasingly distant, even paranoid, about leaks. Rumors suggest that private confrontations erupted after Harry allegedly learned about certain visitors frequenting Meghan's Toronto address while he was away. No one knows precisely what Harry has seen or what he believes. Some say he's in denial. Others say he's furious but determined to keep the scandal private to protect his children and the fragile relationship he maintains with both the press and his royal relatives. As this saga unfolds, one thing is certain: the stakes are colossal. This isn't merely a celebrity scandal. If credible evidence emerges proving Meghan maintained secret relationships while married to Harry, the fallout could be seismic, not only for their marriage, but for public perceptions of the monarchy, the credibility of Harry and Meghan's own narrative, and the multi-million-dollar media deals tied to their image as a modern, authentic royal couple. But let's be absolutely clear. So far, all we have are allegations. Some might be grounded in truth. Others might be malicious fabrications designed to discredit Meghan and Harry further. The only way to find out is to examine the claims piece by piece, looking at the evidence, the investigators, the timeline, and the reactions from both sides. Over the next several chapters, we're going to break down exactly what's being alleged. We'll look at how the rumors started, who's making these claims, what the alleged evidence shows, and what Harry and Meghan, or their representatives, have said in response. We'll hear from royal experts, tabloid insiders, and legal analysts who will weigh in on whether this scandal has any legs, or whether it's destined to fade like so many rumors before it. And, perhaps most crucially, we'll explore the deeper question: why do we, as a society, become so enthralled when the fairy tales of the powerful begin to crack? By the time we're done, you'll have the tools and the information to decide for yourself whether there's truth behind the story of Meghan's Toronto house, and the men said to have slipped through its doors while Prince Harry was thousands of miles away. In a modest but elegant neighborhood just north of Toronto's bustling downtown, there's a house that looks like any other on its tree-lined street. The windows are curtained, the landscaping neat, the driveway discreetly shielded from view. From the sidewalk, it could belong to a lawyer, an artist, a tech entrepreneur. Few would guess it might be the epicenter of a story threatening to become one of the most scandalous chapters in modern royal history. It was purchased, quietly, under corporate structures that concealed the buyer's identity. Real estate documents list shell companies and legal proxies, the kind of legal smokescreen that signals privacy above all else. Neighbors recall an influx of delivery vans, professional security details, and for stretches of time, an eerie silence. And now, leaked documents and whispered reports suggest this seemingly ordinary house might have been far more than a residence. They say it was a second life. While Prince Harry was working on mental health campaigns, shaking hands at fundraisers, or attending high-profile events across the United States, private investigators claim Meghan Markle was hosting visitors, men whose names, professions, and relationships to her remain the focus of frenzied speculation. Some allegedly flew in under the radar. Others, the reports say, came from nearby cities. Almost all arrived late, under cover of darkness, leaving in the earliest hours of the morning. It sounds like tabloid fever dream territory. But it's not just internet trolls and anonymous rumormongers fueling the conversation anymore. Now, names of private investigation firms have surfaced, firms with a track record of delivering high-stakes surveillance for billionaires, celebrities, and corporations. According to documents that have circulated in hush-hush online channels, these firms tracked who entered the house, who left, and how often. And somewhere in this web of allegations sits Prince Harry, a man once celebrated as the rebellious royal who followed his heart, only to find himself, if these rumors hold any truth, in the middle of the kind of betrayal that destroys both marriages and public images. We don't know yet how much of this is real, but what we do know is that the idea of Meghan maintaining a second, secret life resonates because it touches on the most fragile human fears, that the person we love might harbor secrets so big, so devastating, that they would shatter our entire reality. People want to believe in fairy tales. They crave the notion that love conquers all, that Harry and Meghan escaped the suffocating traditions of the royal palace to carve out an authentic, modern marriage. That's why the public was willing to forgive them the unprecedented interviews, the Netflix documentaries, the lucrative deals. It was all part of the narrative, two people fighting for each other against the odds. But if private investigators' claims prove even partly true, the narrative collapses. Suddenly, Harry is not the husband protecting his wife from a hostile press. He's the man who may have been publicly praising his wife while privately confronting her over visitors he never expected. Suddenly, Meghan's elegant words about authenticity and personal freedom might sound less like empowerment and more like coded messages about a life hidden in plain sight. Consider the reports that have leaked so far. Security logs detail vehicle license plates registered to high-profile figures in business and entertainment. Camera footage allegedly shows unfamiliar men arriving around midnight and departing before dawn. One investigator even claims there's enough phone metadata to link some of these men to Meghan's social circle from her pre-royal days in Hollywood. No mainstream news outlet has published the logs in full. No photos have been verified publicly. So why is this story gathering such momentum? Because it contains all the ingredients of an irresistible scandal: royalty, secret real estate deals, private eyes, late-night trysts, and the possibility that one of the world's most famous couples might be built on lies. But even as we explore these claims, it's critical to remember that accusations do not equal proof. Meghan Markle has faced relentless tabloid harassment from the moment she entered the royal spotlight. Her every word, gesture, and fashion choice has been dissected for hidden meanings. Some rumors about her have turned out to be entirely false. Others contained grains of truth. In this current storm, it's essential we ask, who benefits from leaking such a story? And why now? Some say it's the British press exacting revenge for Meghan and Harry's decision to step back from royal duties and publicly criticize the monarchy and media establishment. Others suggest wealthy individuals or rival factions within the royal family might want to discredit Meghan before she gains further influence through her media ventures. Or maybe, as the private investigators claim, it's simply the truth finally surfacing, unstoppable despite every effort to bury it. These are not small stakes. Millions of dollars ride on Harry and Meghan's image as a united couple. Media deals, book contracts, public speaking engagements, all of it hinges on the story of two people in love who fled an oppressive system for a better, freer life. If that narrative shatters, so might the entire financial and reputational structure supporting them. Yet, there's another layer beneath the headlines, a human layer. If Harry indeed discovered any of this, imagine the psychological fallout. Imagine the fury, the heartbreak, the sense of betrayal. Imagine facing the world's cameras while knowing your private life is falling apart. And imagine being Meghan, if innocent, watching the world paint you as a villain based on surveillance reports no one has publicly verified. In the end, this story may turn out to be a modern royal tragedy, or it may dissolve into the dustbin of royal gossip, dismissed as just another invented drama in an endless media circus. But right now, it sits balanced on a knife's edge, with both the public and the media desperate to know, is the fairy tale finally over? Or is it still alive, just hidden under layers of secrets and lies? And so, as we move forward, we'll dissect every piece of this puzzle: the Toronto house, the alleged men, the private investigators, and Harry and Meghan's reactions. We'll sift through facts, question the motivations behind leaks, and try to separate truth from the poison of rumor. In October 2016, a rumor began to circulate quietly in both British tabloids and Hollywood gossip circles. Prince Harry, grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, was dating an American actress best known for her role in the legal drama Suits. The actress was Meghan Markle, a woman whose life was already marked by its own intriguing contrasts, a biracial woman from Los Angeles who moved fluidly between Hollywood red carpets and humanitarian projects in places like Rwanda and India. At first, the rumor seemed almost too unlikely to be true. Harry, still one of the world's most eligible bachelors, was known for his party boy reputation and an aversion to being tied down. Meghan, though charming and articulate, was not a household name outside Suits fans, nor did she come from the aristocratic circles that had traditionally shaped royal matches. But as the weeks passed, it became clear that something significant was unfolding behind palace gates. By early November 2016, the relationship exploded into public view. Kensington Palace issued an extraordinary statement confirming that Harry was indeed dating Meghan, and that Meghan had been subjected to a wave of abuse and harassment by the press and social media trolls. It was the first sign that Harry was willing to break protocol and publicly defend the woman he loved, no matter the royal consequences. It was also the first sign that their story would be different from any royal romance the public had seen before. From there, the narrative moved at a pace that seemed almost cinematic. In early 2017, Harry and Meghan were spotted together in public for the first time, attending a charity polo match and strolling hand in hand through London markets. Paparazzi photos appeared of Meghan visiting London frequently, often wearing Harry's baseball caps and discreetly ducking into the back of royal vehicles. Friends close to Harry described him as smitten, more settled than they'd ever seen him. Meghan's friends, speaking anonymously to gossip columns, spoke of her as glowing, excited, and deeply in love. But even then, undercurrents of trouble were already forming. The British press began to dig into Meghan's past with a fervor that would soon become all-consuming. Stories surfaced about her previous marriage to film producer Trevor Engelson, her family dynamics, and her outspoken political views. Headlines alternated between praising her breath of fresh air approach and accusing her of being a social climber. Meghan's biracial heritage also became a lightning rod for racist undertones in coverage, sparking intense debates about the British media's biases. Still, Harry pressed forward. In November 2017, barely a year after their relationship became public, Harry and Meghan announced their engagement. The ring Harry designed featured diamonds from Princess Diana's personal collection, a symbolic gesture binding Meghan to his mother's legacy. The world watched as they sat together for their official engagement interview, giggling and finishing each other's sentences. Meghan spoke of roasting chicken the night Harry proposed, while Harry spoke of how quickly he knew she was the one. The public swooned. For a brief window, Harry and Meghan became a symbol of modern love, diverse, relatable, and defiant of royal tradition. Then came the wedding. On May 19, 2018, St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle became the stage for one of the most watched royal events in history. The ceremony blended royal pageantry with personal touches, including a passionate sermon by American Bishop Michael Curry and a gospel choir singing Stand By Me. Meghan walked herself partway down the aisle, a quiet but powerful statement of independence. It should have been the start of a perfect chapter. But almost immediately, cracks began to show. Within months, rumors of tension between Meghan and her new royal in-laws leaked into the press. Stories emerged suggesting a rift between Meghan and Kate Middleton, with reports of disagreements over bridesmaid dresses and staff treatment. Royal insiders hinted that Meghan was struggling to adjust to palace life and royal protocol. The British tabloids fed the drama relentlessly, sometimes running multiple negative stories about Meghan in a single day. Harry, meanwhile, became increasingly protective and, at times, openly hostile toward the press. In interviews, he spoke of fearing history repeating itself, a clear reference to how the media's harassment contributed to his mother's tragic death. By early 2019, Meghan was pregnant with the couple's first child. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was born in May that year, sparking global fascination. Yet even the birth of a royal baby couldn't stem the tide of negative press. Tabloids published stories criticizing Meghan's decision to have a private birth and to withhold details about Archie's godparents. Reports painted Meghan as controlling, difficult, and unwilling to know her place. At the same time, Meghan and Harry's public appearances began to dwindle, and speculation grew that all was not well behind the palace walls. Then came the bombshell that would redefine modern royal history. In January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced, via Instagram of all places, that they intended to step back as senior members of the royal family. The announcement blindsided Buckingham Palace. The so-called Sandringham Summit followed, a crisis meeting with Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Charles, and Prince William, ultimately producing a compromise. Harry and Meghan would relinquish royal duties, forego public funding, and pursue independent lives, primarily based in North America. Almost overnight, The couple transformed from working royals into private citizens navigating an unprecedented media storm. They relocated first to Canada, then to California, buying a sprawling mansion in Montecito. Harry signed a deal to produce documentaries and children's programming. Meghan began developing projects for Netflix and Spotify. They sat for interviews that would send shockwaves through the monarchy, most notably their explosive 2021 conversation with Oprah Winfrey, where Meghan spoke candidly of feeling suicidal and accused unnamed royals of expressing concerns over Archie's skin color. Public opinion polarized sharply. To some, Harry and Meghan were courageous truth-tellers, exposing a cold and outdated institution. To others, they were selfish, ungrateful, and addicted to fame. The rift between Harry and his brother William grew deeper, with sources saying communication between the siblings all but ceased except for brief, awkward appearances at family events like Prince Philip's funeral. Meanwhile, rumors continued to swirl about Meghan's inner circle, her relationships, and her supposed ambition to build a global brand rivaling that of the monarchy itself. Online, conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed Meghan orchestrated the entire relationship for fame. Others insisted Harry was the mastermind, eager to escape royal life at any cost. Yet even among the wildest theories, few stories carried the level of personal devastation as the allegations that have recently emerged about Meghan's alleged secret life in Toronto. To understand why these new rumors have such power, we have to remember the emotional stakes invested in Harry and Meghan's love story. For millions, they symbolize the idea that true love can overcome class divides, racism, and the rigid expectations of royal tradition. They become avatars for a generation that questions authority and demands authenticity. That's why any suggestion that Meghan might have maintained secret relationships while publicly embracing the role of devoted wife and mother lands with such explosive force. The Harry and Meghan saga has never just been about them. It's about the monarchy's survival, the power of media narratives, and the eternal public hunger for heroes and villains. And as we'll explore, the deeper the cracks in the fairy tale, the more intense the scrutiny becomes. In the coming chapters, we'll examine what, if anything, connects the Meghan who once blogged about wellness and lifestyle tips on her now-defunct website The Tig to the woman at the center of allegations about secret Toronto visitors. We'll also look at Harry's evolving demeanor. From the charming prince who laughed off rumors, to a man rumored to be simmering with private rage and suspicion. Because to truly grasp the stakes of these Toronto allegations, we must first understand the love story the world fell for, and how quickly that love story began unraveling under the weight of palace protocol, public fascination, and perhaps secrets no one ever expected. Toronto is a city of secrets. It's the kind of place where high-profile film stars blend into the urban landscape, where billion-dollar deals are sealed in low-lit private clubs, and where the right real estate can buy more than just comfort, it can buy invisibility. For Meghan Markle, Toronto was once the city that changed her life. She lived there for years while filming Suits, built friendships, explored philanthropic projects, and found a measure of normalcy away from the glare of Hollywood. It was in Toronto that she learned to navigate fame without becoming consumed by it. And it was also in Toronto, according to some reports, that she laid the groundwork for a separate life, a private world shrouded in discretion, secrecy, and now suspicion. Reports suggest Meghan purchased a home in a quiet Toronto neighborhood shortly before or during the period when she and Prince Harry were navigating their exit from royal life. Real estate records are murky, hidden behind shell corporations and layers of legal protection designed to obscure true ownership. Property experts say this is not unusual for celebrities, particularly in a city like Toronto, where film stars, athletes, and executives routinely hide their names from public registries to avoid stalkers, press intrusion, or opportunistic neighbors. But what's unusual, some investigators argue, is the timing and the secrecy surrounding the purpose of the house. If we believe the timeline as laid out in certain leaked reports, the house was acquired while Harry and Meghan were already publicly presenting themselves as partners in a unified fight against royal constraints. They had announced their departure from royal duties, begun discussing mental health and privacy, and positioned themselves as victims of a cruel media machine. In public interviews, Meghan spoke movingly about wanting to protect her family, to raise her children in peace, and to escape the suffocating expectations of palace life. Yet behind the scenes, according to these investigators, she was establishing a foothold in Toronto, a city where she'd once flourished independently, before she became a duchess, before the world knew her as the wife of a prince. Details about the house remain elusive. Some sources describe it as a modern structure with sleek glass facades and a minimalist interior. Others claim it's an older, renovated property, tucked discreetly behind tall hedges and iron gates. The square footage ranges wildly in reports, from a modest urban home to a sprawling, multi-million-dollar estate. What seems consistent across descriptions is that it was chosen for privacy. Neighbors interviewed by tabloids and online sleuths have shared conflicting accounts. A woman living 2 houses away claimed she noticed a steady flow of vehicles, some driven by men in suits who appeared to be security staff. Another neighbor dismissed the story as pure fantasy, saying the house often appeared empty, with no signs of anyone coming or going. It's this conflicting information that makes the Toronto house mystery so compelling and so maddening. Private investigators allege the property was used not merely as a place for Meghan to retreat, but as a discreet meeting point where she could live a life separate from royal expectations. One investigator, who claimed to have been hired by a party whose identity remains secret, described the house as an off-the-books safe zone, allowing Meghan to host visitors without the constraints of royal security protocols or prying eyes. Why Toronto? The answer might lie in familiarity and convenience. During her suits years, Meghan cultivated a strong network of friends, colleagues, and contacts in the city. She knew which streets photographers preferred to stake out, which restaurants offered private back rooms, and which real estate agents specialized in ultra-discreet transactions. For Meghan, Toronto was the one city outside Los Angeles where she'd already perfected the art of living publicly while keeping her personal life hidden. Moreover, Toronto's location offered strategic advantages. It's only a short flight from New York or Los Angeles, close enough for a secret rendezvous, but far enough from London or California to avoid immediate scrutiny. Unlike London, where Meghan couldn't step outside without being photographed, or Los Angeles, where the paparazzi culture is relentless, Toronto offered her relative anonymity. Yet even if the house was purchased for privacy, the question remains, what was happening inside? According to leaked summaries from private investigators, security logs document dozens of male visitors arriving at the house during periods when Harry was confirmed to be elsewhere, working on projects in California, attending events in Europe, or visiting friends in the United Kingdom. These logs reportedly include timestamps, vehicle descriptions, and license plate numbers. Some of the men have allegedly been linked to Hollywood circles, producers, directors, or entertainment executives. Others, investigators claim, are business figures from the tech or finance world. A few are described only as unknown males, with no publicly traceable identities. No photos have surfaced publicly. No documents have been released to mainstream outlets in full. This absence of concrete proof leaves a gaping void that fuels speculation. Still, the rumors have continued to swirl because the story feels almost cinematic. The woman who captivated a prince maintaining a secret Toronto haven, visited in the dead of night by mysterious men while her royal husband carries out public duties thousands of miles away. It's not difficult to understand why this story resonates so deeply. It touches on fundamental human insecurities, the fear of betrayal, the idea that someone we love might be living a double life. For those skeptical of Meghan from the start, the allegations confirm long-held suspicions that she was never truly committed to royal life, or perhaps even to Harry himself. For her defenders, the story is just another attempt to tarnish a woman who refused to conform to an outdated institution. Meanwhile, online forums have exploded with amateur sleuths dissecting flight manifests, cross-referencing Instagram posts for clues, and trying to pinpoint which Toronto neighborhood houses properties matching leaked descriptions. Some believe they've identified the exact address, though no credible source has verified it publicly. Into this volatile mix come additional details that further muddy the waters. A former Toronto real estate agent, speaking anonymously to a Canadian gossip blog, claimed Meghan's representatives made unusual demands during the purchase process, specifically insisting on multiple layers of ownership entities and ironclad confidentiality clauses for all parties involved. The agent suggested that even seasoned high-profile clients rarely demanded such extreme measures unless they were trying to hide something far beyond ordinary privacy concerns. Another rumor suggests that Meghan decorated the house in a style very different from her Montecito home, described as more urban, sleek, and minimalist, perhaps suggesting a space meant for entertaining rather than family life. But like so many details in this swirling story, this remains unverified hearsay. Even the royal family's silence fuels curiosity. Sources close to the palace have reportedly confirmed they are aware of certain allegations, but refuse to comment publicly. Such silence is interpreted differently depending on who you ask. Critics see it as a tacit acknowledgement that there's substance to the rumors. Supporters argue it's simply the palace adhering to its long-standing policy of ignoring tabloid stories. If any part of these allegations proves true, the implications could be massive. Harry and Meghan have crafted a brand built on authenticity, trust, and mutual devotion. The revelation of a secret life, especially one involving other men, would fundamentally undermine that image. It could imperil their financial deals, public goodwill, and even Harry's emotional stability, given his profound distrust of betrayal and media intrusion. But equally possible is that the Toronto House mystery is a modern echo of historical royal scandals, stories spun from fragments of truth, amplified by a media machine that profits from intrigue. Meghan, more than perhaps any royal spouse in modern memory, has become a lightning rod for narratives both noble and nefarious. For some, the idea that she might have maintained a second life in Toronto is irresistible precisely because it fits the stereotype of her as manipulative, ambitious, and ultimately disloyal. Yet even as we sift through rumors and alleged evidence, one truth remains. The Toronto House, real or not, symbolizes something deeper about modern celebrity and royal life. It represents the perpetual tension between public image and private reality. The public demands access. The subjects crave privacy. Somewhere in between lies the fertile soil where rumors like this take root and grow. Somewhere between curiosity and obsession, there lies a murky world of private investigators, men and women who slip between shadows, gathering secrets for clients who rarely want their names mentioned in public. They work behind tinted car windows, hidden cameras tucked into coffee cups, drones buzzing quietly overhead. They traffic not only in facts, but in the unspoken understanding that in the right, or wrong, hands, information is power. In the saga surrounding Meghan Markle and the alleged Toronto House, it is these private investigators who have emerged as the most critical and the most controversial figures in the entire narrative. According to multiple online leaks and whispered rumors circulating through gossip blogs, Reddit threads, and private message boards, several investigators were reportedly hired in late 2019 or early 2020, just as Harry and Meghan were finalizing their departure from royal duties. Their task, to watch Meghan's movements in Toronto, gather intelligence on who visited the property, and compile detailed logs of comings and goings. Who hired them? That's the question hanging over every detail of this story. Some believe it was tabloid newspapers desperate for the next explosive headline that would sell papers and generate millions of clicks. Others suggest that wealthy individuals in royal circles, perhaps even distant members of the royal family or aristocracy, funded the surveillance, seeking ammunition to discredit Meghan if necessary. Then there's the theory, whispered but persistent, that certain private donors or entities aligned with British institutions felt betrayed by Harry and Meghan's departure and wanted to ensure no stone was left unturned. After all, Harry and Meghan had been funded in part by British taxpayers for years. Their departure left some feeling that they owed transparency, even in their private dealings. But another possibility is the simplest, and perhaps the most heartbreaking, that Harry himself, or someone close to him, might have commissioned surveillance to confirm or disprove suspicions he could no longer ignore. No evidence has publicly linked Harry to such decisions. But several anonymous tips claim that tensions within the Sussex marriage escalated significantly in the months following Megxit. According to rumors, Harry grew increasingly paranoid about leaks, about friends speaking to the press, and about gaps in Meghan's travel schedule that didn't always line up with official narratives. Whether any of this is true remains unverified, but it's the possibility that gives the private investigator angle its sharpest edge. One firm's name keeps surfacing in online posts, a Toronto-based investigation agency with a reputation for discretion and connections in both North American and European security circles. They've been described as the go-to for celebrity crisis management, frequently working with law firms to gather evidence for potential litigation or to prevent it. Insiders speaking to online gossip blogs have offered tantalizing details. Allegedly, these investigators set up discrete cameras near the house, logging car license plates, arrival times, and even attempted to capture images of visitors' faces. They reportedly pulled flight records, matched visitors' travel itineraries to known dates when Harry was outside Canada, and checked hotel bookings linked to certain visitors whose names have not yet been publicly revealed. The level of detail these reports describe is staggering. One investigator reportedly claimed they compiled charts mapping each man's visit to Meghan's house, complete with color-coded lines showing frequency and duration. Another rumor claims phone metadata was obtained, cross-referencing call records between Meghan's known associates and individuals who visited Toronto during the same timeframe. Yet despite all these whispers, no mainstream media outlet has published a definitive report confirming these investigators' involvement. No documents have been authenticated publicly. And that's precisely what makes this part of the story so slippery and so dangerous. It exists in a gray space between plausible surveillance and reckless rumor. Consider the sheer scale of operations described in leaked reports. Running a full surveillance operation over multiple months is expensive. Private investigation firms charge anywhere from $200 to $500 per hour for high-level work involving multiple agents, vehicles, and technological equipment. A months-long operation could easily cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, an investment few would undertake lightly. Yet if the leaks are to be believed, whoever funded this surveillance was willing to spare no expense. Allegedly, investigators were not only stationed outside the property, but were monitoring flight arrivals at Pearson International Airport, tracking private jets known to carry celebrities and high-net-worth individuals. At least two names have surfaced repeatedly in online chatter: a Canadian investigator known for cracking high-profile marital infidelity cases, and a former military intelligence officer who shifted into private security after leaving government service. Both are rumored to have contributed to compiling the Toronto surveillance files. Neither has commented publicly. One gossip forum user, claiming to have connections in private security, described the Toronto house operation as the biggest non-government surveillance job in Canada in the past 5 years. Whether that's hyperbole or fact is impossible to verify. But the notion that Meghan was under sustained private investigation raises profound questions about legality and ethics. In Canada, privacy laws are stringent. Installing hidden cameras aimed at private property, tracking individuals' movements, and gathering personal data without consent can land investigators and their clients in legal jeopardy. Exceptions exist, particularly if surveillance is commissioned for litigation purposes or conducted from public spaces. But if any illegal methods were used, it could expose the investigators, and potentially whoever hired them, to massive lawsuits. Some online sleuths speculate that this legal risk is precisely why no mainstream outlet has published the logs or footage. Because doing so could constitute publishing illegally obtained material, inviting lawsuits and massive financial damages. Meanwhile, another possibility looms large, that at least part of the so-called Toronto dossier could be fabricated. The royal rumor ecosystem is a fertile breeding ground for half-truths and outright fakes. Forged documents, fake logs, and cleverly edited video clips have surfaced before in royal scandals, fooling even seasoned journalists. Could someone have constructed a fake Toronto narrative, sprinkling in just enough genuine detail to make it appear credible? Yet what keeps the Toronto house story alive, and what lends it such dangerous weight, is that multiple individuals from different circles seem to be telling similar stories. Gossip bloggers, private investigator insiders, and even fringe royal commentators keep repeating variations of the same timeline, the same claims of visitors, the same suggestion that Harry has seen or heard something devastating. Even the palace's refusal to deny the allegations outright adds fuel to the fire. Royal watchers argue that if the entire story were false, an emphatic statement could have ended speculation months ago. Instead, silence reigns. Some see that as evidence the palace wants to avoid drawing more attention. Others interpret it as a sign they're waiting to see how much evidence surfaces before making a move. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this private investigation subplot is how it intersects with the fundamental narrative Harry and Meghan have built around themselves. They have presented their relationship as a fortress of mutual trust, forged in the fires of royal scrutiny. Harry has publicly declared he'd do anything to protect Meghan from the press. Meghan has spoken emotionally about the toll relentless intrusion has taken on her mental health. If investigators truly did gather logs, footage, or phone data indicating Meghan maintained other intimate connections while Harry traveled the globe, it would blow apart that narrative. It would suggest Harry, the man who has fought so ferociously to shield his wife, may have been forced to use the very tools of surveillance he despises. The human drama beneath this possibility is staggering. Imagine Harry, driven by doubt and heartbreak, ordering professionals to spy on his wife. Or imagine Meghan discovering she was being watched by strangers, her privacy invaded in the very city where she once felt most at home. Whether the rumors are true or false, they cut to the core of how trust can be both weaponized and shattered in relationships, especially relationships lived on a royal stage. Yet for all the swirling intrigue, the private investigators remain ghosts in the story. They exist only in shadowy references, anonymous quotes, and purported leaks. Not one has stepped forward publicly with documents or sworn testimony. Until someone does, the Toronto House saga remains stuck in limbo, real enough to terrify, elusive enough to deny. In the chapters to come, we'll look deeper into what these investigators reportedly uncovered. We'll examine the logs, the alleged flight data, and the names floating around online. We'll also explore what Harry might know, and how Meghan has responded, publicly and privately. Because if private investigators did indeed step in, they may hold the key to determining whether this is the biggest royal scandal of the century, or merely the most sophisticated rumor ever spun. In stories like this, rumor and truth often travel side by side, their paths intertwined until it's nearly impossible to tell where one ends and the other begins. Nowhere is that more apparent than in the swirling allegations about the security logs and camera footage linked to Meghan Markle's rumored house in Toronto. If there's any part of this scandal that could transform whispers into documented fact, it's the promise of hard evidence. Timestamps, license plates, images of faces caught on grainy night vision cameras, and lists of names meticulously recorded by men and women hired to observe everything. At the heart of the allegations lies a simple claim that while Prince Harry was elsewhere, sometimes thousands of miles away, unknown men were visiting Meghan's Toronto house late at night, slipping inside under the cloak of darkness, and leaving in the pre-dawn hours. According to the online leaks, the private investigators allegedly compiled logs so detailed they could rival the meticulous records kept by intelligence services tracking espionage targets. The logs reportedly list the following information for each recorded visit: exact date and time of arrival, vehicle make, model, and color, license plate numbers, duration of stay inside the house, whether lights were turned on or off in certain rooms, time of departure, notes describing any interactions caught on outdoor cameras. Some reports suggest there were additional layers of data collected, flight manifest cross-referenced with specific dates, credit card transaction records showing hotel bookings, and even cell tower data placing certain individuals near the property at suspicious hours. If these logs exist, they would be the closest thing to proof that Meghan may have maintained relationships or connections Harry knew nothing about. Or at the very least, that she maintained a private life in Toronto while publicly projecting the image of a devoted royal wife. Let's explore what these logs allegedly show. The first batch of leaked details describes a pattern. It's not simply random visitors dropping by occasionally. Instead, the logs supposedly reveal a striking regularity. Investigators claim that over a span of roughly 8 months, at least 3 men visited Meghan's house multiple times each. One man, described only as Visitor A, allegedly arrived on 4 separate occasions. According to the logs, he drove a black SUV with tinted windows, arriving between 11 p.m. and midnight each time and leaving just before dawn. Investigators reportedly traced his license plate to a vehicle registered under the name of a private company linked to entertainment business dealings in Los Angeles. Visitor A has become a central figure in online speculation. Some gossip blogs have tried to connect him to figures in Meghan's Hollywood circle, though no reputable outlet has confirmed his identity. His repeated late-night visits, spaced about 3 weeks apart, form the spine of the rumor that Meghan may have been maintaining an intimate relationship outside her marriage. Then there's Visitor B, whose details have caused even more curiosity. Unlike Visitor A, Visitor B allegedly arrived by taxi on most visits. Logs claim he arrived at wildly inconsistent hours, sometimes as early as 8 p.m., other times close to 2 a.m. He reportedly stayed for shorter durations, often only an hour or two. Investigators claim they cross-checked his image against public photos and believe him to be linked to financial circles, possibly a figure involved in venture capital. Online speculation has gone as far as naming specific individuals, but no credible evidence has been publicly released. Visitor C is the most mysterious of all. He's described as young, athletic, and casually dressed, arriving twice in the same month. The logs reportedly note that he was seen carrying what looked like overnight bags. Both times, he stayed over 6 hours, leaving only as dawn broke over the Toronto skyline. Some sources say Visitor C is entirely unknown, without any ties to Meghan's known social circle. Others claim he's linked to an international sports figure or even someone involved in the music industry. Again, no reliable evidence has emerged to confirm these identities. Beyond these three individuals, the logs allegedly document a scattering of other male visitors who appeared only once or twice, their identities either unknown or not connected to any public figure. One of the most sensational claims is that on at least 2 occasions, investigators obtained images from discreetly placed outdoor cameras. Online rumors describe grainy screenshots showing Meghan at her door, dressed casually, greeting a man with a hug. The footage allegedly shows them stepping inside quickly, lights flicking on in the house, then remaining dim for hours until the man leaves. But here lies the biggest problem in the entire narrative. No credible publication has obtained these videos. No images have surfaced outside of vague descriptions in gossip circles. Some claim the footage has been offered for sale to media outlets, but the legal risks of purchasing potentially illegally obtained video are massive. Consider Canadian privacy laws. Even if footage was captured from a public sidewalk, broadcasting it could expose both the investigators and any outlet publishing the material to lawsuits. Furthermore, if hidden cameras were placed on private property or aimed through windows, the legality becomes even more dubious. That legal minefield is likely why no major news organization has touched the video rumors. For all the sensationalism, publishing footage without verification could be financially ruinous. Yet despite this absence of public proof, the rumors persist for one simple reason. Many find the details disturbingly plausible. Meghan's Toronto house, if it exists as described, would have offered the perfect setup for discreet meetings. The neighborhood is reportedly quiet, the streets lined with tall trees, the house shielded by hedges and fences. Security patrols in upscale Toronto neighborhoods are common, meaning unfamiliar vehicles would stand out, but only if someone were looking for them. The logs reportedly note that some vehicles idled for long periods outside the house, occasionally with drivers remaining behind the wheel. In one log entry, an investigator allegedly noted that a man exited the house around 3:45 a.m., walked briskly to a waiting car, and departed with headlights off until he reached the end of the block. The existence of such meticulous details adds fuel to speculation that at least some surveillance was genuinely conducted. People don't fabricate license plate numbers, flight times, and minute-by-minute movements unless they're extremely dedicated or extremely deceptive. Some online investigators have even attempted to trace license plates mentioned in leaked excerpts. A few claim partial matches to rental car companies in Toronto, further suggesting these visitors were deliberately using vehicles designed to leave little personal trace. Yet others argue that the logs could be partially or entirely fictional. Anyone with enough imagination and knowledge of how private investigators operate could write up a set of logs, insert references to SUVs, license plates, and suspicious timings, and create a document that feels real. One counterargument to the entire Toronto narrative is that Meghan was often photographed in Los Angeles during the very period some of these visits were allegedly happening. Eagle-eyed fans have pointed to timestamps on paparazzi photos of Meghan grocery shopping, attending meetings, or hiking in California. Critics argue these sightings contradict the timeline of alleged Toronto meetings. However, defenders of the rumor claim Meghan could have flown in and out of Toronto without being noticed, traveling on private jets, and keeping trips extremely brief. Toronto is only about a 5-hour flight from Los Angeles, a distance celebrities cross routinely for business, personal matters, or, if the rumors are true, clandestine meetings. Adding to the confusion, some logs reportedly document men arriving at the house even when Meghan was believed to be away. This raises another possibility entirely. Was the house used by other individuals? Friends? Business partners? Could the house have functioned as a meeting spot for reasons unrelated to romance? One online theory suggests the house might have been used as a business venue, a place for Meghan or her team to hold private discussions about entertainment projects or negotiations free from royal oversight or tabloid scrutiny. If true, That would explain some of the male visitors, though it would raise entirely different questions about secrecy and the couple's commitment to transparency. But the allegations that sting most sharply revolve around romantic betrayal. The idea that Harry might have been publicly praising his wife's courage and loyalty while privately confronting a storm of evidence suggesting another life. That's the detail that transforms this rumor from idle gossip into a potential scandal with devastating consequences. If Harry has seen the logs or the footage, his silence becomes its own mystery. Some believe he's protecting Meghan, determined to keep their family together no matter what. Others suspect he's been kept in the dark or refuses to believe the allegations. A darker possibility is that he knows the truth but feels trapped, unable to extricate himself without detonating not just his marriage but the entire Sussex brand. In the absence of verified footage or published logs, we are left suspended in a realm of possibility, where the weight of rumor battles the absence of proof. The Toronto logs might be the most explosive secret in royal history, or they might be the latest phantom birth by a gossip machine that feeds on shadows and speculation. What's undeniable is the impact the logs have already had, even without public disclosure. The very suggestion of their existence has shifted narratives. It has transformed Meghan and Harry from embattled truth-tellers into potential players in a far more complex drama. It has divided online communities, with hashtags swinging between hashtag WeBelieveMeghan and hashtag MeghanExposed. Meanwhile, traditional media has largely kept its distance, waiting either for hard evidence to emerge or for the storm to blow over. In the chapters to come, we'll examine who the select guests allegedly were. We'll look at how their rumored identities connect to Meghan's known social and business circles. And we'll dig deeper into how the timeline of Harry's travels matches or conflicts with the Toronto logs. Because ultimately, whether the logs and footage are real or fabricated, they've become the axis around which this entire royal rumor now spins. And until the truth comes out, the lights in that Toronto house, real or imagined, will remain the most haunting question mark in the saga of Harry and Meghan. In the swirling rumor mill around Meghan Markle's alleged Toronto hideaway, no aspect generates more speculation, fascination, and fervent online detective work than the identities of the men said to have slipped through that front door under the cover of night. They become ghostly figures haunting the narrative, anonymous yet tantalizingly close to revelation. Each rumor, each cryptic blind item, seems to dangle the possibility that the truth might finally snap into focus. Who were the so-called select guests who, according to leaked investigative logs, visited Meghan's Toronto property while Prince Harry was elsewhere? Were they friends? Business associates? Something more? The online rumor landscape is teeming with theories. Depending on who you listen to, these men were wealthy tech entrepreneurs who first met Meghan through philanthropic circles, entertainment executives exploring deals for film and television projects, high-profile athletes with connections to mutual friends, anonymous lovers engaged in clandestine affairs. Yet amidst the chaos of speculation, several recurring names and profiles have begun to crystallize, though to emphasize again, none have been confirmed by credible, mainstream news outlets. Let's explore the individuals and the rumors circling around them, one by one. Visitor A, as the logs allegedly label him, is perhaps the most scrutinized of all. Described in some online leaks as a man in his mid-40s, Visitor A is said to have ties to Hollywood's upper echelons. Reports claim he's a producer with connections to major streaming. Some bloggers assert that Meghan met him during her Suits days or at charity events focused on film and media diversity initiatives. They point to several instances where Meghan attended industry parties where Visitor A was also listed among the VIP guests. An anonymous gossip post suggests that Visitor A and Meghan were in contact about potential documentary collaborations, a connection that could explain his presence at the Toronto house without necessarily implying romantic involvement. Yet others insist there's more beneath the surface, citing the late-night arrival times, the frequency of visits, and the secrecy surrounding his identity. Visitor A has become a kind of cipher for those determined to believe Meghan was maintaining an affair. His identity is supposedly an open secret among certain entertainment insiders, but no one has gone on record. No photos have surfaced tying him directly to the property. And crucially, no statement from Meghan or anyone in Visitor A's camp has acknowledged or denied any connection. Visitor B is the figure around whom the rumors grow murkiest. Unlike Visitor A, whose connections to Meghan seem plausibly professional, Visitor B appears, according to online speculation, to have no obvious tie to the entertainment industry. Instead, he's been described as a financier, possibly Canadian-born, involved in venture capital and tech startups. One blog post alleges that Visitor B first crossed paths with Meghan during fundraising events for humanitarian causes. Some online investigators have pointed to overlaps in Meghan's and Visitor B's philanthropic circles, noting that both have participated in discussions around technology's role in social change. Yet even these connections are tenuous. While there are indeed photographs of Meghan at charity galas where Visitor B's name appears on donor lists, that's hardly conclusive evidence of a personal relationship. The logs claim Visitor B's visits were less frequent but more irregular. He supposedly arrived unannounced, stayed shorter periods, and often left quickly. Some online chatter suggests he might have been helping Meghan with private investments or business planning, a scenario that would explain secrecy, especially given Harry and Meghan's desire to build independent financial security after leaving royal life. But the darker side of the rumor mill insists Visitor B was more than a business contact. Blind gossip items hint that Meghan and Visitor B were romantically entangled as early as 2019, citing unexplained absences from royal duties and mysterious travel logs. Again, no reputable evidence has emerged to confirm any of these claims. Visitor C, meanwhile, is the true enigma in this puzzle. Described as young, athletic, and casually dressed, Visitor C appears only twice in the alleged logs, but his presence has triggered some of the wildest speculation. Some online rumors claim he's connected to a European football club, suggesting Meghan met him through mutual friends involved in sports management. Others propose he's a musician, possibly a member of a band that performed at private royal events. A few believe he's entirely unknown, perhaps a friend of a friend who became significant in Meghan's private circle. Whatever the case, the logs suggest that Visitor C carried overnight bags and stayed for lengthy stretches. Online gossip seizes on this as proof of intimacy, but skeptics point out that overnight bags could just as easily belong to a friend or colleague staying over after a late-night meeting. Beyond these three recurring figures, the rumor landscape brims with additional names, some so high-profile that the allegations feel almost fantastical. One gossip forum erupted briefly with speculation that a globally recognized actor, known for roles in blockbuster action franchises, was seen near Meghan's Toronto neighborhood. A paparazzi photo supposedly showed his security team in the vicinity, but the actor was later confirmed to be in Europe at the time, effectively killing that particular rumor. Another rumor suggested a Canadian music producer had visited Meghan's house, linking her to the music industry beyond her known philanthropic appearances. Yet no credible evidence ever tied this individual directly to Meghan, and the rumor faded as quickly as it appeared. Still, the human mind loves patterns, and where gaps exist in fact, speculation pours in to fill the void. That's what makes the question of the select guests so potent. Consider the broader context. Meghan's social circles before marrying Harry were notably diverse, spanning Hollywood creatives, charity leaders, business executives, and high-profile athletes. She was admired for her ability to move seamlessly among various social environments, adapting her persona to each setting. To some, this adaptability is proof of her charisma. To others, it's proof of a calculating nature, an ability to maintain multiple connections, possibly even multiple relationships, simultaneously. It's worth remembering that even during her suits years, Meghan was a frequent guest at private dinners and industry events where networking blurred the line between professional and personal relationships. She developed friendships with influential figures in fashion, television, and social justice circles, many of whom remain fiercely loyal to her. Some of these same friends have publicly defended her character in recent months, denouncing the Toronto rumors as sexist, racist, and deeply unfair. Yet others, often speaking anonymously to online gossip blogs, claim Meghan has always cultivated male friendships that sometimes strayed into gray areas. It's this whisper network that has lent the Toronto rumors a sense of sinister plausibility, even without public proof. Adding fuel to the fire, a former royal staffer, speaking off the record to a tabloid, hinted that Harry grew increasingly suspicious during their last year in Britain. The staffer claimed Harry sometimes questioned Meghan's travel plans and grew agitated over unexplained gaps in her schedule. Whether this is genuine insider knowledge or simply a well-crafted rumor is impossible to determine. Meanwhile, Harry's own travel schedules provide another tantalizing lens through which the rumors are examined. Online researchers have compiled elaborate spreadsheets matching Harry's appearances around the world with supposed sightings of visitors at the Toronto property. Some believe they've identified timeframes where Harry was confirmed to be in California or London while Meghan allegedly hosted guests in Toronto. Critics, however, point out numerous holes in these timelines, arguing that Meghan was often publicly photographed in California during the same periods. Then there's the question of motive. Why would Meghan, who appears publicly devoted to Harry and their shared projects, maintain separate relationships, or at least such secretive meetings, in Toronto? One explanation suggested by gossip blogs is emotional independence. Meghan has spoken openly about needing spaces to breathe and maintaining her own identity even within a marriage. In interviews, she's hinted that part of her mental health struggles stemmed from feeling trapped and isolated. Some suggest the Toronto house, and any visitors it hosted, were a way for Meghan to hold on to a piece of her pre-royal life. Another theory is purely business-driven. Meghan and Harry have pursued numerous media deals, many involving complex negotiations and high-level partnerships. It's possible the men visiting Toronto were connected to those negotiations, offering financial backing or creative collaboration. In such a scenario, secrecy would be essential, especially as Harry and Meghan sought to avoid public scrutiny during contract discussions worth tens of millions of dollars. Yet the rumors remain focused not on business but on the possibility of romantic entanglements. Because in the court of public opinion, the idea of infidelity cuts deeper than any business secrecy. It transforms Meghan from a savvy negotiator into a figure who may have betrayed not just a husband, but a carefully constructed image of marital solidarity. In the absence of names, photos, or official statements, the mystery of the select guests endures because it allows everyone to project their beliefs onto blank silhouettes. For Meghan's critics, the visitors are proof of her duplicity. For her defenders, the entire story is a misogynistic smear campaign. For the undecided public, it's simply a mesmerizing drama. Because whether we admit it or not, there's something about royal scandals that makes it impossible to look away. In the chapters ahead, we'll examine Harry's rumored reactions to these allegations, exploring whether he confronted Meghan, demanded explanations, or chose silence. We'll also consider how public and media responses have shifted as fragments of this story have leaked into the global conversation. Because the question of who those men were and what they meant to Meghan is not just a salacious curiosity. It's the pivot upon which the entire Toronto saga turns. And until those blanks are filled in, the shadows around Meghan's alleged Toronto house will only grow longer. In every scandal, there comes a moment when the rumor ceases to be an abstract cloud of speculation and becomes an intimate crisis. In the swirling narrative about Meghan Markle's alleged Toronto house and the mysterious men said to have visited it, that moment centers on Prince Harry himself. The man who has, for better or worse, built his entire public persona around loyalty, honesty, and fierce protection of the woman he loves. To understand how these rumors might have affected Harry, we have to look at who he is, and how his life experiences have left him exquisitely vulnerable to precisely this kind of upheaval. From his earliest days, Harry's life has been defined by both unimaginable privilege and profound trauma. He was 12 years old when his mother, Princess Diana, died in a Paris tunnel while being chased by paparazzi. He has spoken repeatedly about how that trauma shaped him, the suddenness, the public spectacle, the unending sense that his personal grief was also the world's entertainment. As an adult, Harry became the royal most comfortable talking about mental health. He has been candid about panic attacks, anxiety, and using alcohol and partying as coping mechanisms. He has also spoken of his deep-seated distrust of the media and his fear that history would repeat itself, that the woman he loved would be driven to despair, or worse, by relentless intrusion. So for Harry, the allegations that Meghan might have led a secret life in Toronto, especially one potentially involving other men, would strike not only at his heart, but at his deepest insecurities about betrayal, secrecy, and public humiliation. Rumors about Harry's reaction to the Toronto allegations began surfacing almost as soon as private investigator leaks trickled into online gossip circles. Various anonymous sources have painted radically different portraits of how Harry has handled the crisis. Some claim Harry flew into a rage upon learning details of the alleged security logs, demanding explanations from Meghan in heated, private confrontations. According to one source quoted in a tabloid story, Harry couldn't believe what he was hearing and initially dismissed the rumors as a malicious attack. But the same source insists that as more details emerged, Harry's confidence began to fracture. Other insiders, however, say Harry remains steadfastly loyal to Meghan, refusing to believe any story without concrete proof. One friend of the couple, speaking anonymously to a British newspaper, reportedly said, "Harry would rather cut off his arm than believe Meghan cheated on him. His loyalty is absolute. The truth may lie somewhere in between." One of the most persistent narratives circulating online is that Harry became quietly suspicious months before the Toronto allegations hit the gossip forums. According to some reports, he began questioning inconsistencies in Meghan's schedule, particularly during periods when they were supposed to be coordinating transatlantic work commitments. Allegedly, Harry's frustration grew when he struggled to reconcile Meghan's stated whereabouts with other information he was hearing from mutual friends or staff. This alleged suspicion could explain why certain private investigators were hired in the first place. While there's no confirmed evidence Harry directly engaged these services, some believe he may have been involved indirectly, perhaps through intermediaries or through concerned friends or advisors who wanted clarity on the swirling rumors. If Harry did know about surveillance, it would represent a deeply painful irony. Here is a man who has spent years denouncing invasive media practices, possibly resorting to the very tactics he condemns to learn the truth about his own wife. It's a dilemma that cuts to the core of his identity and his stated values. There's another dimension to consider: the effect of these rumors on Harry's relationship with Meghan. Even if the Toronto allegations are completely false, the simple existence of these rumors would have a corrosive effect on any marriage. Trust, once eroded by suspicion, rarely returns unblemished. Harry and Meghan's brand, and perhaps their emotional bond, depends on the image of them as a unified team, two people standing shoulder to shoulder against the world. Several insiders suggest that Harry's trust has been shaken, even if he ultimately chooses to believe Meghan's denials. One rumor claims the couple's therapy sessions intensified after the Toronto story began circulating. According to whispers from those who claim insider knowledge, Harry has struggled with bouts of intense anxiety, feeling torn between loyalty to Meghan and his growing doubts about certain inconsistencies in their private life. Observers have noted Harry's demeanor in public appearances during the timeframe when the Toronto allegations began gaining traction online. Some point to moments where he appeared distracted or tense during interviews. Others highlight instances where Harry seemed irritable or abrupt when asked personal questions. While none of this is definitive proof of marital turmoil, the change in his public persona has been enough to spark speculation. One telling moment came during an event for Harry's Invictus Games, when a reporter asked a question about Meghan's upcoming projects. Harry, usually smooth and affable, reportedly gave a brief, curt answer and quickly changed the subject. Tabloids seized on this as evidence that the rumors were weighing on him. Skeptics argue it's simply Harry's long-standing discomfort with discussing personal matters in public. Then there's the question of Harry's relationship with the wider royal family, a relationship already strained long before the Toronto allegations emerged. Insiders claim Harry has been hesitant to discuss the rumors with members of his family, fearing that doing so would provide ammunition for palace factions who have always been critical of Meghan. Royal experts suggest Harry might feel caught between a rock and a hard place. If he admits even private doubts about Meghan, it could justify every criticism the royal institution has ever leveled against her. If he refuses to acknowledge the rumors at all, he risks looking naive or complicit if evidence eventually emerges. One particularly dramatic rumor suggests Harry confided in Prince William about the Toronto suspicions, only for the conversation to explode into an argument. While there's no proof this conversation ever happened, the idea has become a staple in online discussions about the royal brothers' fractured bond. Meanwhile, Harry's reputation as a fiercely protective husband complicates his position. He has built much of his modern identity on the notion that he will go to any lengths to defend Meghan from the same forces that destroyed his mother. If he were to publicly question Meghan's fidelity, it would contradict his own narrative and undermine the very brand he and Meghan have crafted together. Some of Harry's friends have reportedly expressed concern that he's isolating himself, consumed by trying to manage the fallout. One source quoted by a tabloid suggested Harry feels like he's living in a pressure cooker, unsure whom he can trust. Whether these reports reflect reality or simply feed the gossip cycle is impossible to verify. Perhaps the most poignant aspect of Harry's rumored emotional turmoil is the silence that has surrounded it.